All right, big weekend this weekend. I'm heading to the Driftwood this afternoon to test out this projector. We want to do an outdoor movie. This is an idea I had when I was concepting the brand for the Driftwood. We were going in this retro aesthetic direction, and I thought the outdoor movie was perfect for that. That aesthetic, that vibe, that experience. We're going to test this out. There's also a car club staying there, rented out the whole place for the weekend. I'm going to get some content of that for the socials, but before I drive over there, I've got a few things I need to do. Number one, I sold the first investment memo client yesterday. Really exciting. So I'm going to get in on that. I want to make sure I do a good job and turn it around quickly. I'm finding speed on that service is going to be the key differentiator. The other two things I'm going to do is just tee up and give some direction to my social media manager and my brand consultant for the Perle. Make sure that they're ready to go for the week ahead. And then with whatever time I have left before I need to hit the road, what I'm doing is getting some of my old custom deal pages that I did when I was making them one at a time for clients, getting those inputted into the new system and template on this platform. Because I'm finding people, when I'm doing outreach, are asking for examples, and I send them these custom ones, and they're like, oh, I want that. It's objectively better looking, but they take weeks and cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're not that much more effective than the more streamlined. So going to transfer that over. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's also a great chance for me to just continue to fine tune my skills, to understand the platform better, to improve it. So I kind of enjoy the process. It just takes a lot of time. But before anything, breakfast, venison, zucchini squash, strawberries, grapes. Good morning. Breakfast is done. Time to get to work. I am going to walk you through my process, my job, my career, what I do, writing investment memos for people, a big part of my business. So let's get into it. I'm throwing an hour 30 on the clock. Don't worry, that's not for you. I'm just going to give you an overview right now. Basically, we write investment memos. They end up looking something like this. Digital webpage investment decks. This is a software that I built called DealPage. So they end up looking like this just to orient you. And this is the modern version of what people have used for a long time. Investment memos, pitch decks are also interchangeable, but I would say professional real estate developers typically are doing short, like 2 to 4 page memos like this. My process when I'm selling a client through this service is I get them in and I get them to send me the information on their deal, and I write a first draft for them. So that starts our process today. This is the first draft that I showed the client in order to sell them. I made the first draft, I sent him a quote, I sent him this, and I said, hey, this is looking good. I need a few things from you. He got me those things, and now it's time to take the next step. The first thing I do is open up what the client provided me in terms of previous marketing materials and photos, etc., just to see what I'm working with. So he's building these childcare facilities. He pre-leases them, which is great. That's a huge deal. It reduces a lot of risk for investors. He gave me this OM, a broker OM, from when they went to go sell the last one. So on the sales side, we're focused on the investment fundraising side right now. And then he gave me a few other presentations of theirs. I'm going to dig through and read each one of these quickly just to get a better sense of what's going on. And then I'll check back in and let you know what I'm thinking as far as the strategy for this thing. Okay, hour and 45 minutes later, this is where I've gotten to. I've written down notes of what I need left from the client, but just to give you a sense, I write everything out here and I move through the sections that we obviously have. A header, title, we have this, I call a newspaper headline, something that's catchy and grabs attention. Executive summary, we have terms, and then the main bulk of this work is within the investment memorandum section. I haven't formatted this out yet with bullets, lists, paragraphs, etc., but I spent a lot of time just working through all the details that the client gave me and just sussing everything out. The thing with these deals and presenting them as an investment opportunity, every deal is different. Every deal has sort of like a lead thing that you want to lead with. You can see in the newspaper headline, what we're leading with is low risk, high return, build to suit, 15-year triple net. That just means that they are building a piece of real estate that already has a lease signed with someone. It's signed with someone that doesn't have a lot of debt or creditors. They're very unlikely to basically default on this lease. It's very safe and it's very quick. They're going to turn around and sell it quickly. Those are all unique things with this deal. So when an investor is opening a presentation, what do you want them to know first? What do you want to hook them with? So I start there and then I try to build out around that. And with each deal, even the order in which you stack things underneath that, meaning like going down the presentation, what are you telling people about and in what sequence? It changes. It's not always, market overview, financials, about us. Depending on what's more important, the second most primary lead might be the team with some people, it might be the deal, then it might be the team, and then it might be the location. Or maybe the location is really what's hot about this deal, and then the team is really great, and that comes second. So you just have to move this stuff around, and then specifically for these deal page memos, and really any memo, if you're not doing like a pitch deck that's all mostly like visuals and graphics, you just want to think about being super concise in the specific words and language that you want to use. I used to make pitch decks for people. I have many examples of pitch deck. Here's an example of one I made back in the day. You can see it's different than what I'm doing now. I've just found that this is not necessary. Any serious sophisticated investor, and unsophisticated for that matter, but especially sophisticated, they just want to know the simple facts and details. They want to read it in a way that's simple and easy to understand, and they're smart. They're going to make their own decision about what to do with their money. You just need that thing in hand that you can present to people that starts the conversation, because ultimately every deal gets closed on the phone or in person. That's why I write these memos now the way I do. It's simple, it's bullet points, it's facts, and it's straight to the point. But the skill comes in as far as what do you present, where, in what order, and how do you present it. I'm gonna step out and take a quick walk to take a break. I don't like sitting in front of the computer for too long. You know, for years since I really started this entrepreneurial journey, I've had this thought that it's all just going to click for me. Like there's going to be this one singular moment where all of a sudden revenue shoots up, things become easier, and I get to this plateau, which that plateau has sort of raised over time. At first it was 10K a month, 20K a month, 30K a month. But point being, it's going to turn, I'm going to get there, and then it's going to be there. That's obviously a mistake. I'm realizing that, but really fully implementing that realization still has been hard, but I'm having that same thought in this moment and reflecting on it. And in the context of, for example, this client that I just worked on this morning, the reason I think that type of thought process or expectation holds people like me back, people like you, if you can relate, is when you think it's all just going to click, when you are in those moments, those micro moments that stacked up make up success, you don't push, you don't keep going after more of those in isolation. You're sort of just like waiting to turn a corner that's never really there. Success ultimately is only ever the stacking of small things, of small wins. So like for many years I would get a client, and rather than taking that momentum and pushing and getting more and more and stacking it up, I would just sort of like sit into that and be like, okay, I've turned a very small corner, but I'm just waiting for my big corner, that big takeoff moment. When you get those micro wins, you got to go and get more and more and more. And I'm feeling that now, finally, where it's like, okay, now I understand. I just have to roll to the next one and the next one and the next one. And then I'll look back and I'll see that I'm at that plateau. It's kind of like that story where there's some guy stuck on a life raft in the middle of the ocean, and like a turtle floats by, a piece of wood floats by, or things are floating by that could potentially save him or help him. But every time he's like, no, I'm waiting. God will save me. God will save me. God will save me. And then he dies. He gets to heaven. He's like, God, what the hell? And God's like, what do you mean? I sent a turtle and a piece of wood that you could have grabbed onto, or whatever the actual story is. Same thing, like these singular micro opportunities, you shouldn't look at them as like, oh, this isn't my corner that I'm turning. This isn't that liftoff point. I'm just going to wait back. It's like, that's the turtle. That's the piece of wood. Like grab it and grab more of them and stack them up, and then you'll get to where you want to be. All right, back on the sticks after a quick walk, lunch, clean, stretch, and we're getting into Hotel Perle brand now. This is the stopping point I last got to on the Hotel Perle brand. I'm explaining why we took a new direction and changed. I have to do that because some of the partners liked the old direction, some didn't. We all just need to get on the same page as a partnership. I'm gonna stop after I do the writing here, and I wanna show you something that I think is unique and difficult. It's trying to explain these very high-level, vision-based, directional thoughts that are totally subjective on brand and creative and why you should do certain things, and explain that in a professional way. I'll check in a sec. Okay, checking back in after an hour of honest work. I am approaching this like I usually do for creative type work, where I'm iterating, I'm putting things that I'm thinking about using sort of off to the side. I'm creating duplicate slides in order to test different images out. I'm a believer that all these small things, when you're presenting to a group, especially a group that's not creatives by trade, they may be creative and understand good creative, but no matter what, if they're not creative by trade, they are prone to get pulled in the wrong direction or see the wrong thing in an image. Someone will key in on something that's not even the point of why that image is being shown. So it's very important, the images and the things that you use to tell the story of a creative direction or a vision is crucial. So this is actually pretty cleaned up for me. I think one advantage with the Hotel Perle is I've been working on this brand, not just the project, on the brand for years, really years of iterating. And so I know it so well and it feels so second nature to me. This is all the previous iterative work that we've done. Closing this out, gonna move on. I'll tell you what I'm doing next, but this feels like a good stopping point. One thing that I haven't mentioned is what I like to do with Julia, my brand consultant and collaborator, is really like tap her in certain instances. Mood boarding is actually not a strength of mine. I'm way too OCD to create these sort of aesthetic, messy mood boards. I'm more about like polished up, cleaned up, and then telling the story. And I told you I was going to talk to you about how I wrote this. I'm going to link to this brand book below so you can go ahead and just read it. But really, what I chose to do here was tell the chronological story of how we got to the different checkpoints that we did, why we got there, and then why things needed to change when we made changes in other parts of the project, and that we should strive to create an element of creative cohesion across all touch points for this hotel. I'm expecting some pushback that we change the brand at all. So rather than sort of waiting to discuss, I like to just address things head on. That's what I did here in this little intro. And then I said, now that we are going in a new direction, what we did was to strip it back to like our core base pillars that we've always had on this project. And my hope is that my partners will see how genuine and rooted in the core truth of this project and what it's all about this is. And anything that comes from a genuine place that's less about vanity or power games or something like that, I think at least gets entertained more and won't get as much pushback. So I showed how this is all these things that we all agree on, these pillars, that this is about group travel. The streetcar is a big part of it. We want to emphasize the greenery, something that not all hotels in the city do, even though it's such a unique and incredible part of this city. So going through those things and then building it back up again, and then just showing the rest of the brand identity from there. I'm going to move on and do a little bit of work on social. I think it might be interesting, a little meta to be showing that here, but I'll show you what I do for that. So as of now, there's two parts of this process. Number one, we're working out an Airtable now. I've tried so many different systems for tracking content, but you can see here each row is like an idea of a post, and we sort of workshop it within here between comments, categorizing it, linking to the raw content, whatever's going to make up that post, whether it be video clips, images, a file, and then sometimes uploading the content. Or here, for example, I've just started to mock this up myself just to play around with it, and I've uploaded that just to give my social media manager some direction. But the other part of this is working in Figma. So basically I've got a few accounts to take care of, right? I've got my personal, which has grown a lot, human capital, which I'm really just getting started, but I want on social to drive people to my services, and then Deal Page, which is on there and it's up, but it's really dormant. It's got maybe one post. And so across the board between those three and then Hotel Perle and Driftwood, I'm sort of managing mainly this girl Mimi and then Julia, the person I work with on brand. And we're coming up with ideas, we're executing, they're largely executing. And a lot of times I like to just get in there and mess around. The way that I learn best or think through and iterate is just by playing with it and riffing off of stuff other people did. And I like to start kind of exactly copying what someone else has done and then play with it and go from there. I read this great book a long time ago called Stealing Like an Artist, and it just talks about how you can leverage and use people's work, not to copy, but just as a starting point. And it's so powerful. It's such a powerful thing to implement. But that's about it for On the Desk today. I'm going to head over to Driftwood. We got this movie to set up. I do have to do a couple things for Deal Page, just servicing some clients. Had a user come on. He needs his account linked. That's still a manual process we have to do on the back end. That's why I want to switch to Bubble eventually. I'm going to do those things, and I'll catch you in the car. Much nicer. I'm borrowing my partner's truck to go up to Bay St. Louis. My car's out of commission. Shocker. So let's hit the road. win some, you lose some. I went out there and there's this motor club that took down the whole place. It was way busier than I thought. Pretty cool to see, but I didn't want to test the movie screen there. I'm gonna test it here at home tomorrow. Actually, probably later today. It's Sunday morning. Right now we're on to breakfast and then on to another day of the grind. That's the end of this video for now.